mystery of the alleged race of fair-skinned blue-eyed giants found in Catalina Island, California. In the distant past, Earth was inhabited by many civilizations, some of which are well known while others remain a mystery up to now. There are legends of giants in the many ancient cultures throughout the world, but with time they've become a myth. In the last century, many artifacts and evidence of abnormally large bones showed up that sparked the theories which say that the giant beings lived among humans thousands of years ago. Some people call them the Genesis giants or the Nephilim. For over 13,000 years, the cluster of islands off the California coast continued to reveal the mysteries of ancient times that scientists are still trying to explain. These islands are the home of over 2,000 plants and ancient species. Among them, Santa Catalina Island, also known as Catalina Island, located 22 miles from Long Beach, attracts the attention of various historians. Catalina Island has an interesting history. It was originally settled by Native Americans known as Gabrielino Togva Indian tribes around 7000 BC. In 1542, explorer Juan Rodriguez Cabrillo called it the island and made this a Spanish part of the Spanish crown. Then in 1846, it was possessed by Mexico and finally purchased by the United States. Real estate speculator at the end of the 19th century is claimed that at the beginning of the 20th century, the ancient burial ground was uncovered by a man named Ralph Glidden, who moved to the island with his parents in 1896. He had worked as a carpenter before he found interest in the Indian artifacts and the ancient burial sites he found at the different places on the Channel Islands. Between 1919 and 1928, he uncovered numerous ancient burial sites on Catalina Island, finding human bones and skeletons. And during the excavation, Glidden claimed to have found alleged 800 burial sites and a myriad of Indian artifacts and relics, as well as thousands of ancient natives' remains which he used to sell and trade to the museums and collectors. He's said to have excavated more than 800 grave sites from various locations around the island, including thousands of artifacts and 4,000 human skeletons. In 1924, Glidden opened a museum which he called Catalina Museum of Island Indians, where he publicly displayed his discoveries. He described his Indian museum as a unique and weirdly spectacular institution with shoulder blade cornices and window edged with toe, ankle, wrist, and finger bones, leg and arm bones, and served as brackets for shelves lined with skulls, ceiling panels decorated with human vertebrae, and rosettes of shoulder blades. Can you imagine? Among the most curious discoveries made by Glidden, the most outlandish one was his claim that he found a mythical prehistoric race of fair-skinned, blue-eyed giants with adult males measuring 7 to 9 feet in height, once inhabited Santa Catalina and its adjacent islands. Mysterious Universe writes, Glidden claims overwhelming proof that a fair-skinned, fair-haired, highly intelligent race of great stature lived on Catalina Island off the southwestern coast of California, perhaps 3,000 years ago, and that his excavation of a huge cache of skeletons, domestic utensils, urns, wampum, etc., is quite out of ordinary class of Indian discoveries. A skeleton of a young girl, evidently of high rank, within a large funeral urn, was surrounded by those of 64 children, and in various parts of the island more than 3,000 other skeletons were found, particularly all the males averaging around 7 feet in height, one being 7 feet 8 inches from the tip of his head to the ankle, and another being 9 foot 2 inches tall. Interestingly, in 1913, an 8-foot human skeleton was found by German Dr. A.W. Furstenen. Supposedly it was discovered in hard black sand and was mostly disintegrated when it was brought to the surface and exposed to air, leaving only the skull, jawbone, and foot intact. And besides, there is another report of finding a giant skeleton, 7-foot tall person, which had double row of teeth and 6 fingers and toes. The double rows of teeth were common in human remains found in the Channel Islands. Similarly, San Nicolas Island was also the hub of larger human skeletons that supposedly belonged to a different race. John Johnson, PhD, curator of anthropology at the Santa Barbara Museum of Natural History, said, with regard to the giants of Santa Catalina Island, these reports are apocryphal as far as I have been able to determine. For example, there's a historic photo of Glidden in the background and the burial in the foreground, merely creating an illusion that the skeleton is somehow a giant. According to historical records, Glidden's career was short-lived. He stated that the alleged giant skeletons he had found were buried in ceremonial fashion. He surmised that the local native worshipped them as some sort of gods. Obviously, his research was seen as skeptical in the mainstream media and chalked up to being a money-making scheme. Some people said that he bought the fake skeletons from a curio shop on Broadway in Los Angeles. A paranormal researcher named Mazzulli backed Glidden and said that on a detailed analysis, one of his photos showed an 8.5-foot tall skeleton. Seems to be real. And he also noted that one of the giant skeletons clearly showed 6 fingers. Glidden died in 1968 at the age of 87. He reportedly sold his collection to the Wrigley family for $5,000, who later donated to the Catalina Island Museum. And this is on Hows and Whys by Vicky Verma. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support. Please support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.